Have you ever paused and asked yourself, what if I'm living the same year over and over again and calling it growth? What if most of what you think is you is just survival mode dressed up as personality? Why do some people move through life with quiet confidence, calm under pressure, grounded in storms, while others, despite every effort, feel like they're barely holding it together? Here's something that hit me one day. Life doesn't owe us understanding, but it gives us patterns if we're brave enough to look. And the truth is, most of us don't look. We're too busy running, reacting, repeating. We normalize chaos because we've forgotten what peace even feels like. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, trapped, tired all the time. That's why this video exists. This isn't about motivation. This is about survival. This is about those moments when life feels like too much, when you're awake at 3 a.m., scrolling your mind like it's a playlist of regrets. This is for the part of you that's exhausted by pretending everything is okay when it isn't. And here's what I've learned. There are 7 rules of life that quietly govern the way people find peace, grow stronger, and live better. Most people never realize them until life breaks them open. But when you do realize them, everything shifts. Not instantly, not magically, but permanently. Because once a truth lives inside you, you can't go back to pretending you don't know it. Let me ask you, have you ever held on to something long after it stopped holding on to you? Have you ever taken someone else's pain and made it your responsibility to fix? Have you ever looked at someone else's life and felt behind, even though you were doing your best? And deeper still, have you ever blamed yourself for things you never had the power to control? If any of that feels familiar, you're not broken, you're human, but you're also ready. And readiness isn't a mood, it's a decision. It's the moment you stop asking the world to change and start asking yourself what you haven't changed yet. So what are these 7 rules? They're not commandments, they're not secrets, they're lessons, earned in silence, in grief, in confrontation, in letting go, in choosing better. Each one carries a wound. Each one holds a mirror. They won't give you control over the world. They'll give you power within yourself, and that is so much better. They're not about fixing your past. They're about not repeating it. They won't erase your pain. They'll teach you how to carry it without letting it poison you. Let me take you into a story. There was a woman named Eleni. On the outside, she was successful. Job, marriage, perfect Instagram. But inside, she was drowning in comparison, guilt, and the pressure to be everything for everyone. She smiled through burnout. She apologized for needing rest. She measured her worth in productivity. Until one day, on her birthday, her best friend gave her a card that said, "You don't need to earn your place in this world. You already belong." She cried, not because it was poetic, but because it was the first time someone said it out loud. That moment cracked her open, not into pieces, into clarity. And sometimes clarity is the first kind of freedom. And that's what these rules are designed to do, crack you open in the right way. They'll challenge how you react to people, how you carry pain, how you chase peace. They'll force you to stop running from yourself. But more than anything, they will remind you of something we all forget. You have more control than you think. But it doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from governing yourself. Before we begin, I need to warn you. Once you hear these rules, really hear them, there's no going back. You'll start seeing them everywhere, in conversations, in arguments, in the way you love, forgive, and let go. They'll become your compass, not because you asked for a map, but because life made you lost enough to build one yourself. You won't be perfect, you'll fall off, but now you'll know what to come back to. So here's my only request. Don't just listen. Reflect. Pause the video if you need to. Let yourself feel called out, cracked open, awakened. Because sometimes the truth doesn't show up softly.
Sometimes it shows up like a storm because your comfort zone needs to be broken down for your peace to move in. These are the 7 rules of life. They might not be what you expect. They might challenge what you believe. But if you're still here, still listening, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready to live by them. Let's begin.
Rule number 1. Let it go. That thing that keeps you up at night, that person who never said sorry, that version of you from 5 years ago who made a mistake and still shows up uninvited every time you're about to feel proud of yourself, let it go. Sounds simple, right? But let's be honest, letting go is one of the hardest, most misunderstood things we'll ever be asked to do. Because we think letting go means we're giving up. We think it means it didn't matter, or that we're weak for moving on. But in truth, letting go isn't weakness, it's power, because it's the moment you stop bleeding for a battle that's already over. I want to tell you a story. Marcus was 28 when he was betrayed by his business partner, someone he trusted like family. Overnight, his company crumbled. His savings disappeared, and worst of all, he lost his sense of identity. For months, Marcus obsessed over it. He replayed every email, every meeting, every red flag he ignored, and every day he didn't let go was another day he let his past partner steal more of his peace. Then one night, Marcus saw something online that stopped him cold. You don't heal by fixing the past. You heal by freeing the future. That line hit like a train, because he realized he wasn't stuck because of what happened. He was stuck because he kept choosing it. Every morning, every thought, every memory. It wasn't happening anymore, but it was still alive in his mind. That night, he made a decision. He wrote one sentence on a sticky note and stuck it on his mirror. Forgiveness is choosing to stop drinking the poison, hoping they'll feel it. That's when everything began to change. Letting go isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's about no longer allowing it to own you. It's about closing the chapter so you can stop rereading the same page and calling it your life. Think about it. How many times have you sacrificed your present moment to relive a moment that no longer exists? How many opportunities have you delayed because you were still tangled in old fear, old failure, old heartbreak? Letting go is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice, patience, and pain. Let me share one more story. Carla held on to guilt like it was her oxygen. She left her hometown years ago after a massive fight with her mother. They hadn't spoken in 5 years when her mother passed away suddenly. No goodbye, no closure, just silence that echoed louder after death. Carla punished herself for years. She stopped laughing out loud. She felt undeserving of joy. She let guilt dictate her worth, not just in her relationships, but in her career, her health, her self-respect. One day, a therapist asked her, if your mother were here right now, would she want you to keep punishing yourself? Carla cried, because she knew the answer. Her mom would want her to live. And that's when she finally gave herself permission to grieve without guilt, to let go, not of her mother, but of the weight that kept her from living fully. Here's what makes letting go so difficult. Your brain is wired to hold on to patterns, even painful ones, because familiarity feels safe. Your ego wants justice, validation, closure. Your fear tells you that if you let it go, it might happen again, so you hang on as a warning label, a protective shell. But peace doesn't come from clinging, it comes from clarity. Clarity that says, that moment taught me something, but it doesn't get to teach me forever. Letting go means you stop arguing with what already happened. You stop needing an apology to move forward. You stop outsourcing your healing to the person who broke you. And here's what no one tells you. You can let go and still care.
You can release and still remember. You can move on and still honor what it meant to you. Because letting go doesn't erase the past, it just releases the grip it has on your future. So if you're watching this and there's something or someone that lives rent-free in your head, that memory, that mistake, that moment you keep rewinding, ask yourself, has holding on to it helped you heal, or has it only helped you hide? Are you using it as a mirror or a mask? And if it hasn't made you feel lighter, safer, freer, maybe today is the day you finally choose something different. Let go, not because they deserve it, but because you do, because your future does, and because rule number 2 becomes impossible until you do.
Rule number 2. Don't take things personally. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but few things cause more invisible damage than this. You get ghosted, and suddenly you feel unworthy. Someone snaps at you, and you think, "What did I do wrong?" You don't get the job, and your mind whispers, "You're not good enough." But what if none of it was really about you? Most of what people do has nothing to do with you. It's a reflection of them, their fears, their wounds, their insecurities, their unmet needs. And when you take it personally, you absorb their storm and call it your fault. Let me tell you a story. Jason was in a long-term relationship with someone he truly loved. But every time she got distant or irritable, he would spiral. He'd overthink every text. He'd replay every conversation, trying to decode hidden meanings. He believed her mood swings were his responsibility to fix. One day, she ended things, not because of something he said or did, but because she realized she wasn't ready for love. Jason was shattered. But weeks later, he stumbled across a quote that stopped him cold. "Stop trying to take responsibility for how people choose to feel." That sentence changed everything. He realized he had been internalizing someone else's emotional journey as his personal failure. He wasn't the villain. He was just a human, trying to love someone who was still learning how to love herself. Here's the truth no one teaches you. You can be kind and still be misunderstood. You can be genuine and still be rejected. You can give your all and still not be enough for someone who hasn't healed. Taking things personally is ego in disguise. It makes you the center of every interaction, but not everything revolves around you, and that's actually freeing. It's hard, though, isn't it? Because we want to matter. We want to be seen. We want validation, connection, certainty. So when someone is cold or unfair or distant, it's easier to assume we did something wrong than to accept the painful truth. People treat others how they feel about themselves. A cruel person is often a hurting one. A distant person is often scared. An angry person is often grieving something they've never admitted to. You didn't cause that, and you can't fix it by overthinking your role in their behavior. Let me share a second story. Nina worked under a boss who constantly criticized her. No matter how much she delivered, he always found a flaw. For a year, she believed she wasn't good enough. Then, in a moment of courage, she applied for a job elsewhere. During the interview, she was told, "Your portfolio is one of the strongest we've seen." That was her wake-up call. The problem wasn't her work. It was that she had internalized someone else's insecurity as her identity. And from that day on, she promised herself, "I won't shrink just because someone else can't see clearly." Here's a quick exercise. Think of the last time someone upset you. Ask yourself, did they really attack you? Or did they just express something unhealthy around you? Those aren't the same. When you stop taking things personally, you create space, emotional space, between stimulus and response. You learn to observe instead of absorb. And it works both ways. When someone compliments you, it might be more about them than you, too. Projection doesn't just live in criticism, it lives in praise. So the secret is this: what people say about you tells you almost nothing about who you are, but it tells you everything about them. You don't need to internalize it. You don't need to react. You just need to stay grounded in who you are, even when other people are swirling in who they aren't. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine walking through a field of mirrors, all broken, some dirty, some fogged over. Each mirror shows a warped version of your reflection. If you believe every mirror, you'll start to doubt your shape. But if you remember who you are when no one's watching, their distortions won't define you. That's what it means to not take things personally. It means anchoring your identity inside yourself, not in other people's reactions. So next time someone disrespects you, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this really about me? Or am I standing in the path of their storm? And if it's not about you, let it pass. Let them carry their weather. You don't have to become the forecast. This rule doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without collapsing. You love without losing your center. You exist without needing permission to feel whole. And that's powerful. Because when you stop taking things personally, you stop bleeding from wounds that were never yours. You stop living your life in reaction to other people's storms. You begin to live it on your terms. Rule number 2 is a boundary, one that protects your peace, your self-worth, and your emotional clarity. And it leads directly into the next rule, a truth we all forget when we're in pain. Time doesn't just pass, it heals if you let it.
Rule number 3. Time heals almost everything, but not the way you think. We grow up hearing this phrase like a lullaby. Just give it time. Time heals all wounds. But time alone doesn't heal anything. Time just passes. Healing is what you do with that time. You can sit in silence for years and still be angry. You can bury something for a decade and still feel the pain like it happened yesterday. So no, time doesn't heal everything. But time with intention can heal almost anything. And that difference, it changes everything. Let me tell you a story. After losing his brother in a car accident, Jamal went numb. He didn't cry, he didn't talk about it. He just kept going. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. People said he's strong. But strength isn't silence. It's not pretending. It's not pushing through while breaking inside. Years passed, but the pain didn't. It just found new ways to live inside him, in anxiety, insomnia, short tempers. Until one day, Jamal was helping his niece with a school project. She asked, "What was Uncle Darius like?" He froze. He hadn't said his brother's name in 3 years. And in that moment, he broke. Not because he was weak, but because he realized he had paused his grief, not processed it. He'd let time pass, but not let healing in. That's what so many of us do. We wait for time to do what only truth, release, forgiveness, and love can do. Time doesn't heal you, you do. But time gives you the space to see things differently, if you're willing. It gives you perspective. It softens your grip. It allows the sharp edges of memory to dull slowly. And if you let it, time teaches you something sacred. You can live without forgetting. You can grow without erasing.
You can move forward without leaving them behind. There's a reason healing doesn't happen overnight. Your heart isn't a switch, it's a garden, and gardens take time. Time to pull out the weeds, time to plant new things, time to wait for the season to shift, for the rain to stop, for the sun to come again. Some days you'll feel like nothing is changing, but healing is quiet, invisible even, like the way skin slowly closes over a wound while you sleep. It doesn't announce itself, it just happens while you keep going. But you do have to help it. You have to rest. You have to speak. You have to feel what you've been avoiding. Because numbing isn't healing. Distracting isn't healing. Pretending isn't healing. Grief is not a problem to fix. It's a process to carry. And healing doesn't mean you forget. It means the memory no longer hurts like it used to. Let me give you another story. Isabel's father left when she was 12. No note, no goodbye, just gone. For years she blamed herself. She carried that hole into adulthood, into relationships, into friendships, into the way she trusted people. At 33, she found a letter in a box her mom had hidden, written by her father, full of guilt, shame, and heartbreak. Reading it didn't bring closure, but it did bring something she never expected, compassion. And that compassion made room for forgiveness, and forgiveness made room for healing. She still misses him. She still has questions, but she no longer carries them like chains, because time and truth softened what was once unbearable. I want to ask you something. What have you been trying to outrun instead of outgrow? What pain have you decided is permanent just because you haven't felt relief yet? If today is hard, that's okay. But just because it's hard today doesn't mean it will be hard forever. You're still in motion. You're still becoming. And time is walking with you if you stop running from yourself. There's a quiet power in waiting, in staying the course, in letting things take the time they need. Don't rush your healing. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Some people bloom in spring, others not until winter. No bloom is better. They're just different seasons. One more thing. Some of the deepest healing happens when you stop asking, "Why did this happen?" and instead start asking, "Who am I becoming because of it?" That's when time shifts from passing to transforming. You're not just moving away from the pain. You're moving towards a version of yourself that knows how to hold it and still live fully. That version of you, they're closer than you think. So yes, time can heal almost everything, if you help it, if you honor it, if you don't fight it. Let it hold you, let it soften you, let it teach you. And when the ache gets quiet, when the tears come less often, when the weight feels just a little lighter, that's when you'll know time did its part, and so did you. But if you want time to truly work, you have to stop wasting it measuring your life against someone else's.
Rule number 4. Don't compare your life to others. It's one of the fastest ways to kill joy. And yet, it's something we all do, quietly, constantly. You scroll through someone's highlight reel, and suddenly your real life feels like a failure. You hear about someone else's promotion, and your job feels smaller. You see someone's engagement, and you question if you're lovable. You see someone's abs, and suddenly your body feels wrong. But here's the truth. Comparison is the thief of joy and the death of peace. Let me ask you something real. When was the last time you felt proud until you saw someone else doing better? When was the last time you questioned your path just because someone else's looked faster?
Comparison is subtle, it's seductive, and it's a lie. Because you are measuring your behind the scenes against someone else's carefully edited front page. You are using someone's middle to judge your beginning. You're forgetting context, timing, life circumstances, privilege, pain, struggle, sacrifice. And the worst part? You're shrinking your own joy just because it doesn't look like theirs. Let me tell you a story. Amira was 30, single, living in a one-bedroom apartment, and working a job she didn't love but didn't hate either. Every time she opened Instagram, it felt like everyone was passing her by. Destination weddings, career wins, babies, houses, six-figure months, side hustles. It felt like she had missed something. So she started pushing. More hours, more hustle, more effort. But none of it was for her. It was to catch up to a life that wasn't even hers to live. One night, she broke down. Her best friend asked, "What would your life look like if you stopped trying to live someone else's?" That question unlocked something. She realized she was building a life she didn't even want, just to impress people she barely liked. She was burning out to reach a destination she hadn't chosen. So she stopped. She unfollowed dozens of accounts. She took a break from social media. She started asking herself, what do I want my life to feel like, not just look like? And that's when everything began to change. Here's the truth. Comparison thrives where clarity is missing. If you don't know what success looks like for you, you'll copy someone else's and then hate it when you get there. Success isn't a universal path, it's a personal one. Your timeline isn't broken just because it doesn't look like theirs, and your value is not determined by speed, aesthetics, or milestones. Let's break this down. You weren't born to live someone else's script. You weren't designed to be a copy of your classmates, your coworkers, your cousins. Your journey has its own weather, its own turns, its own timing. Some people find love early. Some people find purpose late. Some people explode by 25. Others bloom at 45. There is no timeline that's better. There is only yours. And if you're in a slower season, one where nothing big is happening, that doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're building beneath the surface. And some of the most beautiful lives take the longest to root. Let's talk about social media for a second. You know this logically, but emotionally it still gets you. People post the best angle, the filtered light, the curated caption, the vacation, not the argument, the proposal, not the panic attack, the highlight, not the breakdown. And yet, we look at their life and believe it's whole, while ours feels scattered. That's not fair to your truth. That's not fair to your real, messy, beautiful life. If you must compare, compare inward. Who were you 1 year ago? What have you survived that no one even sees? What are you proud of, even if it's small? Maybe your progress isn't loud, but it's real, and it's yours, and that matters more than you think. Let me offer this metaphor. Imagine running a race, but every few seconds you turn your head to look at other runners. Not only do you lose speed, you risk tripping. That's what comparison does. It distracts you from your path. It pulls your energy sideways. It clouds your vision with someone else's reflection. Focus forward. Trust your pace. Honor your terrain. Because here's the truth no one says enough. You're not behind. You're on a different path. And different doesn't mean lesser. It means divine. There's beauty in not rushing. There's strength in staying rooted. There's freedom in saying, my life isn't late, it's unfolding. So next time you feel yourself shrinking because of someone else's success, pause. Ask yourself, do I really want what they have? Or do I just feel like I should want it? That question alone can save you for years of chasing the wrong dream. Don't compare your life to others. Compare it to who you were before. Compare it to your own becoming, because that's the only timeline that ever mattered. Now, when you stop comparing, something beautiful happens. You start feeling calm. You return to center. You stop trying to control everything. You begin to breathe deeper. And that brings us right into rule number 5, a powerful truth for every storm you'll ever face. Stay calm and grounded. Rule number 5, stay calm and grounded. It sounds gentle, maybe even boring, but in a world built to pull you into chaos, calm is rebellion, and groundedness, that's your emotional anchor. Because life will get loud, people will test you, things will go wrong. The question isn't, will it happen? The question is, who are you when it does? Let me tell you a story. David worked in a high-pressure job, constant deadlines, demanding clients, and a team that looked to him for every answer. He was smart, fast, ambitious, and exhausted. Every day felt like survival. His emotions lived at the edge of a cliff. One bad email could send them over. One day, his boss exploded at him in a meeting, in front of everyone. David felt his face flush. His chest tightened. He wanted to yell, defend himself, prove he wasn't wrong. But instead, he paused, took a deep breath, said, "I hear your concern. Let's talk after this." And he walked out with grace. Later, people told him, "You handled that like a rock. You were so composed. How did you stay so calm?" What they didn't know is that David had started meditating 3 months earlier, not for spirituality, but for survival, to train himself to respond, not react. And in that moment, it paid off. He didn't lose his cool. He didn't lose his job. He kept his power because he kept his center. Staying calm doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're powerful without being volatile. It means your peace isn't held hostage by other people's behavior. It means you can walk into a storm without becoming the storm. But let's be real, it's not easy. When someone attacks you, your nervous system lights up. Your body floods with adrenaline. Your heart races. Your fists clench. You're wired for defense. That's normal, but just because it's natural doesn't mean it's always helpful. Because every time you react from the nervous system instead of the higher mind, you risk making the situation worse. Here's what staying calm actually looks like. Pausing before you reply to that message. Breathing through the urge to yell. Choosing stillness when your ego wants noise. Walking away instead of escalating. Letting the moment pass instead of letting it possess you. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel things. It means you don't let those feelings drive the car. It means you can hold anger without exploding, feel grief without crumbling, face fear without fleeing. It means you stay inside yourself, even when everything around you is pulling you out. Let me offer you a metaphor. Picture a tree during a storm. The wind howls, the rain pounds, the branches sway violently, but beneath the surface, the roots hold. That's what it means to be grounded, to have inner roots, values, tools, awareness that keep you from being uprooted by chaos. You don't control the storm, you control the depth of your roots. And sometimes being calm is the most revolutionary thing you can do. In a world addicted to outrage, your peace is a protest.
In a conversation full of shouting, Your stillness is power. In a digital space flooded with anxiety, your breath is sacred. Here are a few grounding practices you can try. Box breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Repeat. Name what's true. I'm safe. This will pass. I don't have to solve it all right now. Feel your body. Notice your feet, your breath, the chair beneath you. Speak slowly. It slows your brain too. Pause. One moment of stillness can prevent years of regret. Touch a grounding object, a stone, bracelet, or item that reminds you to come back to yourself. And here's something powerful. The calmer you become, the more you start to notice. You notice how often people are just projecting. You notice how many arguments are just unhealed wounds yelling at each other. You notice that silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. When you're grounded, you don't chase control. You lead with clarity. You speak with precision. You navigate with wisdom. So next time you feel yourself spiraling, close your eyes, breathe deep, anchor yourself. Because chaos doesn't get to decide who you are. You do. And here's the best part. When you stay grounded, people start to trust you. Your leadership grows. Your relationships deepen. Your decisions sharpen. Your self-respect expands. Why? Because you become the calm in the room, the steady in the storm, the grounded one in a world that keeps losing its center. And in doing so, you start to become the person you used to look for in others. But calm isn't just about peace, it's about power. And the most powerful thing you can ever do is take responsibility for your own energy.
Rule number 6. It's on you. Own it. This one stings because it means you can't point fingers anymore. You can't keep blaming your parents, or your ex, or the economy, or the people who never saw you, or the people who did and still left. Taking responsibility doesn't mean they weren't wrong. It means you're not going to let what they did define your future. Blame is a cage. Responsibility is the key. Let me tell you a story. Monique spent most of her 20s feeling stuck. She'd bounce from one job to the next. Her relationships were chaotic. Her bank account was always in survival mode. And every time things fell apart, she told herself the same thing. It's not my fault. And technically, she was right. She grew up with trauma. She wasn't taught financial literacy. She had been betrayed more times than she could count. But one day, after another failed relationship, she sat with a friend who said something that changed her life. It's not your fault, but it's still your responsibility. That hit her like a punch, because deep down, she knew she had two options: keep playing the victim of everything that happened to her, or start becoming the architect of what happens next. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable. It forces you to admit, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one who stayed too long. Maybe I avoided the hard conversation. Maybe I've been sabotaging my peace because chaos feels familiar. Maybe no one's saving me because I was meant to save myself. Here's what taking responsibility is not. It's not blaming yourself for everything. It's not ignoring injustice. It's not pretending people hurt you. It's this: what happened wasn't mine to choose, but how I heal, grow, respond, and rise, that's all me.
Responsibility is freedom, because if it's on you, then you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for an apology to move forward. You don't have to wait for conditions to be perfect to take action. You don't have to wait for permission to change your life. You are the author. You are the pattern breaker. You are the one who gets to say, "This ends with me." And you don't need to overhaul your whole life in one day. Responsibility starts small, like making the call you've been avoiding, being honest with yourself about your habits, apologizing without a but, setting the boundary, asking for help without shame, saying, "I was wrong," and learning from it. That's what self-leadership looks like. That's how you shift from survival mode to creation mode. Let me offer a metaphor. Imagine your life is a car. For years, you've let other people take the wheel, or you've driven with the rear-view mirror glued to your trauma. You've blamed traffic. You've blamed the road. But one day you realize the wheel's been in your hands the whole time. Responsibility is grabbing it and choosing where to go next. There's one question I want you to sit with. What part of my life am I quietly hoping someone else will fix? Your confidence, your healing, your self-worth, your peace, your future? The truth is, no one is coming to do it for you. But that's not depressing. That's liberating. Because you don't need saving. You need choosing. And you get to choose yourself fully, daily, and without apology. Monique? She didn't become perfect overnight, but she started making new choices. She read books. She built routines. She asked better questions. She healed patterns she didn't even create. And slowly, her life began to change. Not because the world got easier, but because she got stronger. Responsibility is power, but it's also compassion. It means looking at yourself with truth and love, not shame. It means saying, "I may have messed up, but I'm not a mess. I didn't cause all this pain, but I refuse to let it shape my story anymore." You get one life. You can either spend it reliving what happened or rewriting what comes next. You don't have to fix everything today, but you can own the next step, the next breath, the next decision. When you take responsibility, you stop being a passenger. You start being a force. Not in the loud, ego-driven way, in the quiet, grounded way that says, "I'm here now, and I'm not waiting to be chosen anymore." Because no one's going to hand you the life you want. You have to build it, brick by brick, choice by choice, truth by truth. And when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us
to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final rule, the one that brings them all together. Because once you've learned to let go, to stay calm, to take responsibility, and when you live like that, people will notice, opportunities will shift, relationships will evolve. You'll look in the mirror and finally see your power again, because energy follows ownership. And that leads us to the final.
Rule number 7. Give without needing. Love without fear. Live with depth. This isn't just a rule, it's a way of being. And it might be the hardest one of all. Because to truly live with depth, you have to let go of armor. To love without fear, you have to risk being hurt. To give without needing, you have to trust that who you are is already enough. We live in a world that keeps score. Likes, followers, paychecks, praise, validation. Everything is a transaction. But the truth is, some of the most powerful things in life happen when you give, not to get, but because you have something real to give. Let me tell you a story. Luca was a musician. He played on street corners, never for money, just for joy. One day, a woman sat nearby, tears running down her face while he played. He stopped and asked, "Are you okay?" She said,
I was going to give up today, but your music, it reminded me there's still beauty in the world. That moment changed him, because he realized you never know how far the ripples of your presence can reach. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich. He just showed up, honestly, deeply, and without expectation. And that was enough to save someone's life. To live with depth, you have to stop performing, stop curating, stop playing the part of who you think the world wants, and start living as the person you are when no one's watching, unpolished, unfiltered, present. Here's the truth. When you give with need, it drains you. When you love with fear, it controls you. When you live at the surface, it numbs you. But when you give with heart, freely, when you love with presence, bravely, when you live with depth, fully, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you're no longer afraid of being real. Let's break this down. Give without needing. Give compliments without hoping for one back. Give your energy without strings. Give your time without resentment. This doesn't mean being a doormat. It means giving from abundance, not from emptiness. It means giving because you want to, not because you have to. It means knowing your value doesn't decrease if it goes unrecognized. Love without fear. Love people not to fix them, but to see them. Love without armor, without conditions, without keeping score. Will you get hurt? Probably. Will some people leave? Absolutely. But the pain of a real connection is still better than the numbness of a guarded life. Fear tells you to withhold, but love, real love, doesn't ask for guarantees. It asks for courage. Live with depth. Go beyond the shallow. Ask better questions. Be willing to sit in silence. Feel things all the way through. Laugh until your stomach hurts. Cry when your soul needs release. Tell the truth even when your voice shakes. Depth doesn't mean you always have answers. It means you're not afraid of the questions anymore. Let me tell you one last story. Adrian was a teacher. He never made headlines, never got 1 million views, but every year he wrote letters to his students on graduation day. Handwritten, personal, deep. Years later, one of those students, now an adult, messaged him, "Your letter kept me going through the hardest year of my life. You saw something in me I couldn't see in myself." Adrian never knew. He was just being himself. But that depth, it echoed. You don't need to be known by millions. You just need to be real with the few. That's how legacy works. So how do you know you're living this rule? You stop chasing applause. You find beauty in simplicity. You give without tracking what comes back. You rest without guilt. You love people even if they don't love you back the way you hoped. You stop fearing who you're becoming because you finally respect that person. This is where all the other rules lead. You let go so you can love fully. You stop taking things personally so your heart stays open. You give time to heal so you don't carry old wounds into new days. You stop comparing so you can live on your terms. You stay calm so your presence becomes a gift. You take responsibility so your love is not a burden but a blessing. And now, you give, you love,
You live. Not for applause, not for proof, but because that's who you've chosen to be. Let me leave you with this. Your life is a message. Every action is a sentence. Every day is a page. Every interaction is an invitation. You don't get to control how others read it, but you do get to choose what you write. So write with love, live with truth, give with fire, and let your legacy be one of depth, not performance. You made it to the end of the 7 rules of life. And if even one of these rules sparked something in you, a memory, a reflection, a tear, a realization, then it means the work has already begun. Let it keep unfolding. If this video moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. If it helped you breathe deeper, like it. It helps more people find the message. And if you want more content that speaks to the heart, subscribe. This isn't just a channel, it's a space for growth, for truth, for becoming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being real. Thank you for choosing depth. We'll see you in the next one.